Hold on. I got it. I'm ready to go. We are recording and we are ready to go. Welcome back to World Veg Fest, everyone. And now we are with Sandra Lawrence from Sweet Farm. We're so excited to see you again. Is that Paco behind you?
That is Paco. He's finishing up his morning breakfast here at the farm.
Paco is a being that I have fallen in love with from afar. I have been watching him on Instagram. I'm totally in love with him. I'm going to hand it over to you, Sandra, and then I'll pop back in with questions.
Wonderful. Yeah, Paco is definitely a star here at Sweet Farm. And so my name is Sandra Lawrence. I'm the Director of Development and Outreach here. And we are a farmed animal sanctuary and an heirloom vegetable and flower farm here located in Half Moon Bay, California. So we also grow fruits and vegetables here at the farm. We have a CSA program where folks can come and pick and harvest fruits and vegetables when we're not in a pandemic. Right now, folks are just picking up pre-harvested boxes for themselves. And some of those fruits and vegetables also go to our animal ambassadors here, like Paco. Some of his favorite treats from the garden are greens, and he loves strawberries and carrots and those sorts of things that we grow here at Sweet Farm. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera view around so we can get a better look at Paco, because you're obviously not here to see me. And then we'll go ahead and get started with the tour. And so Paco here, he's finishing up his morning breakfast. Llamas do tend to eat a little bit on the slower side, at least our llamas here at Sweet Farm do. And Paco is 10 years old, and he was rescued from a horse farm where he was a companion animal and a herd protector. And at that horse farm that he was at, those horses just passed away from natural causes and from old age. He found himself alone on the property for the first time. And llamas are companion animals. They can get really depressed pretty quickly if they are alone. And while he was alone on the property, a group of dogs had actually wandered on and overwhelmed him and attacked him. He's got some pretty significant scarring up and down his legs, and he's got some on his face as well. And the farmer then realized that he wanted to find Paco a safer place to live, along with other companions to have and another herd to protect. So he reached out to Sweet Farm, and we were pleased and happy to bring him here to live out the remainder of his days. He has become very popular here at Sweet Farm. He's one of our most popular animal ambassadors. And he's gonna spit on Dolly here, who in the morning, he is not a very good sharer of his breakfast and food. And so Dolly will have to go over to the other feed bin to eat. So Paco here can definitely take a lesson on sharing. But llamas are known for spitting. And typically for Paco here, he'll spit on other ambassadors if they try to come over and encroach on his breakfast or his lunch and dinner. And that is a form that they will also do when they're trying to protect their herd. So like if a coyote or a fox were to wander onto their property, they will spit on them repeatedly. They will also charge at them and encroach and charge them and kick at them with their really long legs and try to do what they can to protect the property and to protect their companions. And so you got the pleasure of seeing Paco here spit on his one of his llama friends, Dolly, and they both have the joy of spitting on each other when they try to steal each other's food. Dolly will do the same thing normally to Paco as well if he tries to walk over and try to steal her food as well. Llamas on average tend to live anywhere from about 15 to 16 years of age, but most domesticated llamas actually live well beyond that. They can live up to about 20 years old. And so Paco here definitely has an incredibly long life yet to live here at Sweet Farm. And so he is a short-haired llama, and you could tell the difference between Paco here and Dolly, who is actually a long-haired llama. And she will actually have to be sheared every year in the springtime to keep her comfortable and keep her healthy. And so there are typically two types of llama. Usually you're short-haired and you're long-haired. And so she is your long-haired llamas. And she does have to be sheared. And so she was recently rescued about 6 months ago. She came to us when a resident from the Southern California area had reached out to us and said that she had two llamas. And Dolly here was actually losing her eyesight and going blind. And she didn't want, basically didn't want them anymore. They weren't really getting the proper care. They didn't have enough space in their backyard to keep them. And they weren't getting the proper nutrition and diet either. And so we were happy to bring Dolly and her partner Shika, who I'll introduce you to in a second, here to Sweet Farm. And once we got them on the proper diet that a llama should have, which consists of, hay, alfalfa hay, grazing out in a pasture. They also get specially formulated llama pellets that have vitamins and nutrients that they don't get from just eating hay. And they also get a mineral block in their stall, which has additional minerals that they need to stay healthy. Dolly's eyesight started to return. And she was actually losing her eyesight due to poor nutrition. And so after further analysis with the help of our veterinarians and a consistent diet that she needed that had the proper nutrition, her eyesight returned and came back. And so she will now get to live out her days here with her partner Shika, with the majority of her eyesight here. So she'll be able to see. And it was due to the malnutrition that she was not getting that was affecting her eyesight. So, and Dolly here is about 8 years old. And so she too will have a long life to live. And unfortunately, her haircut that she has, we get a lot of questions about her haircut. This was the preferred haircut that her past owners preferred to have her groomed. And one of the main reasons is that they were being used as well to basically give rides to children. So, and llamas tend to not be very, they don't like human companionship in that aspect. And so you can imagine how uncomfortable they were with having to give children's rides. And so now they will be able to be much more comfortable here at Sweet Farm and not having to do any of those activities again. And so here is Shika, Dolly's partner, and they came here together and they'll get to live their lives out here. Do we happen to have any questions about llamas in the chat going on?
I have a question. I love this spitting little kind of thing, because it's almost like what children do with each other when they're trying to steal things from each other. And when is that a natural behavior? Do they or is that something that you only see in llamas that have been brought up in captivity?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that is actually a normal behavior. So domesticated and wild llamas, that spitting is a natural behavior for them. That is one of the main deterrents that they will use for protection is spitting. And so a lot of people will say, oh, well, can you make a llama spit? Well, sure, you can make a llama spit by doing something that they don't like. And so, here at Sweet Farm, obviously, we don't want to make our llamas spit because obviously that means you're doing something that they don't like. But if you see a llama spit that you don't know, it's typically because you're doing something that they're not happy with. Their ears will go immediately back. And typically a spit is coming. If you see those ears not standing straight up and they're immediately back, they're not happy. They're uncomfortable.
I can't imagine that they were being used for children's rides. That just seems absurd to me. I mean, look at how small they are. That must have been really painful for them.
Yeah, so on average, llamas can carry about 1/3 of their body weight. And so Shika here, who's actually a little on the smaller side, you know, they're not really used for riding. Now, they were originally from South America, and the South Americans they're the preferred pack animal over mules. And it's mostly because of their two toes, and they can scale mountains a lot better than pack mules can. And then also because they are herd protectors, they would help protect the villagers at night when they had to set up camps, when they would have to take multiple day voyages from one village to the next. But they, you know, they wouldn't overpack them. They knew what they could pack them with. But again, you're exploiting the use of an animal. So, you know, so here in America, most llamas you will see as herd protectors. You'll see them at, you know, goat farms, sheep farms, those sorts of things, because they are herd protectors. If a predator comes near, you know, they make alert sounds. So like Dolly and Shika, depending on the llama, will depend on the sound they make. Dolly and Shika, they make a like a high pitched shriek sound that almost sounds like a horse. Paco makes a high pitched clicking sound, and that's kind of his stranger danger sound that he makes. And they try to alert the property owners that a predator might be near. And so we've heard those sounds from our animals here. They will make them if the neighbors' dogs get too close to our fences. They're not big fans of dogs. And so some of our neighbors have some dogs, and if they come too close to the fence, they'll make those noises just because they're not big fans of dogs.
And is that a behavior that you see in the wild as well, or is that just something that has evolved as they've become more ingrained in human society?
Yeah, so from my understanding and from what I've read is that I've heard that wild llamas do the same thing, but I haven't witnessed a non-domesticated llama make those noises yet.
That is just so neat that they're looking out for their friends.
All right, we're going to take a little walk, but feel free to continue to ask questions along the way. So here at Sweet Farm, we do have 12.5 acres on our property. We are home to just over about 140 rescued farm animals that come from all sorts of different circumstances and backgrounds. They've been rescued from abuse, neglect, factory farming, animal testing, you name it. We probably have a rescue here that have from that particular situation, and they've all been rehabilitated and will get to live their life out here to educate folks and teach them about their background and their story in hopes that people will live more compassionately and sustainably. So a lot of our education programs involve around our animal ambassadors, and we also educate on sustainability through our agricultural programs, growing veganic agriculture. And we support innovative companies that work really hard at removing animals from the system. So like your cell-based meat companies, you know, you've got, I think Rancho Compasión is after us, and Miyoko's Sanctuary. So, you know, Miyoko's company who is revolutionizing the dairy world. And so we support all of those companies that work really hard at removing animals from the system. All right, so let's talk about Gizmo. And so Gizmo here, he's gonna relax for you. And so Gizmo here is our 6-year-old miniature Hereford steer. And he was rescued from 4-H. And 4-H is a youth leadership program where a young boy or girl will raise a farm animal and show them off at your local county fairs, your rodeos, those sorts of things. And so luckily for Gizmo, the young girl who raised him didn't want to see him sold at auction at the end of the program. That tends to happen for a lot of the children that participate in that program. It's pretty traumatic for them when they realize that the animal that they've just raised and grown attached to are ending up in auction for slaughter. So she reached out to Sweet Farm and asked us if we could intervene and help her and the family save Gizmo. And so we were able to do that, and we were able to bring him here. Now, he is a miniature, and if he were to be standing up, the only thing that really makes him a miniature is the fact that he's got short, stubby legs. So he's kind of short and stocky. That is really the only thing that makes him a miniature. He is still a pretty big boy. He still weighs about 2,000 pounds. And so other than that, he is full sized, other than the shortness of his legs. Now, cows are incredibly smart. They can remember migration paths, watering holes. If given complex puzzles, studies have shown that they too experience that eureka moment, that feeling of accomplishment and pride. And they've actually Cornell's done studies where if hooked up to a heart rate monitor, they're actually a lot calmer when they're with their preferred companions and friends. They really grow bonds with other cows and species too. Gizmo here, one of his best friends is a 37-year-old stallion here at Sweet Farm, who is actually still up in the barn finishing up his breakfast because he is 37 and eats a lot slower. But Gizmo here is also really good friends with Argyle, who's standing who's resting right behind him, taking a little morning nap, and he's actually going to stretch out for you. That's signs of a very comfortable cow. And so Argyle is a 5-year-old Jersey steer. And so he is a male rescued from the dairy industry. And so male cows are obviously considered a byproduct of the dairy world. And luckily for Argyle, he was born on an educational dairy farm. And on this educational dairy farm, when he was born, he was unfortunately still separated from his mom, but the farmer wanted to provide mercy on him and didn't want to sell him for veal or hamburger, which normally happens to male dairy cows. And he wanted to find him a forever home. So he reached out to us and asked us if we would provide him refuge, which we were happy to, because he could now act as an ambassador for, unfortunately, the dairy cows that are not able to be saved. Argyle here is a sweet boy. He weighs about 2,100 pounds and has such a loving personality that you sometimes can't always turn your back on him, because he loves to rub his head on just about anything, including humans. And so he'll sneak up behind you, and then all of a sudden you'll feel this large head start rubbing up and down your back. And if he catches you off guard, he'll almost knock you off your feet, but he just wants to love you and play. He is very endearing. And Argyle and Gizmo are very good friends. You can often see them grooming each other in the pasture and really just enjoying each other's company. And so these guys will get to live their lives out here at Sweet Farm. Average lifespan of a cow, 20 to 25 years of age, and both of these guys have an incredibly long life yet to live. He is just taking a morning snooze after his morning breakfast.
One of my favorite photos was when Argyle and Gizmo were returning home after the evacuation, and they were coming up that path that you were just on, and the barn was behind them. That is such a magical photo, because you can tell what good friends they are and how happy they were to be home.
Yes, yes. Everybody, after we had to evacuate from the fires, everybody could just tell that they were home. They, you know, some of them frolicked in the pastures, and they just knew it. They settled right back in, and you know, and it was, you know, it was almost like they were away at summer camp, but at the same time, you know, just like kids are when you go to summer camp, there's nothing like being home. And so these guys, I mean, they were incredibly happy to be home and back in their routines, and back in their own pastures. And they, you know, they had their normal laying spots. I mean, animals have their normal resting and napping spots in the pastures. And so, you know, they immediately kind of just fell right into that. All right, I think we've got, let's go introduce you. We've got two of our goats that actually like to hang out in this pasture. They like to hang out with the big guys. We actually are home to 8 goats, and most of those guys like to hang out in the mini pasture. But these 2 guys like to hang out with our bigger animals. So we'll introduce you to these guys. So we've got Juno here, and we've got Bruno right here. So we'll introduce you to Juno first. Hey, Juno. So this is Juno, and Juno was rescued from, she was found abandoned on the side of the road up north, and animal control had picked her up and transferred her to a sanctuary up there that unfortunately at that time just didn't have enough space to keep her. So they reached out to the sanctuary network, and we were happy to bring her here. And so we brought her here to live out the remainder of her days. Now she's an alpine cross goat, and she's got these incredibly beautiful horns that a lot of people always comment about, because they don't realize that female goats have horns. And that's because a lot of times when you see goats, they have been debudded. And fortunately for Juno, her past owners did not proceed with that process. We suspect that she was probably a family goat that got out, because she is incredibly loving, very sweet. She loves to give kisses and rub her face on you, and she's typically one of the very first goats that will come over and greet you, and it want affection. And so unfortunately she just wasn't claimed when animal control picked her up, but she will now get to live her life out here. And she is always an integral part to some of our goats' rehabilitations as well. So she was part of Bruno, who is stretched out for you. She was a big part of Bruno's rehabilitation process. So Bruno came from an abuse and hoarding situation. He spent a lot of time tied up on a post, and didn't get a lot of activity, didn't get a lot of interaction. And while he was tied up on this post, he was actually attacked by a dog, which is why he is missing an ear on this side. And when we finally got him, a good Samaritan rescued him and brought him to us. And he did not care for people. He didn't trust us. He didn't trust anybody. And so it took us a really long time to work with him to get him used to people and trusting that we were not going to hurt him. And Juno was actually a really big part of that rehabilitation. She helped kind of explain to Bruno that we were not going to be here to hurt him. And he's come a really long way here at Sweet Farm. And so now he knows that humans are good, and that we can provide some of the best butt and back scratches that his horns cannot reach. And he will sometimes actually push the other goats and animals out of the way to get that attention from humans, because he wants his butt and back scratched. And so we are still in the process of working with him on some food aggression issues, just because at his last situations. He never really knew, hi Brenda, you coming over for a butt scratch? He never knew where his meals were going to come from. So we are still working with him on some food aggression issues, but we will continue to do that. And he's a work in progress, but he's come a really long way. And so Bruno now knows that he is safe and that he is in a good home. And Juno has been a great part of that. And these two are typically not very far apart in the pasture. They spend a lot of time together. They lay down in the fields together. And she's kind of his little security blanket, so to speak. Huh, Bruno? Do we have any questions at all?
He looks so happy. He looks so content. It's amazing that he seems so at peace after his such a sad backstory.
Yeah, he's getting a good butt scratch right now too. He's pretty happy.
And even though he's missing an ear, it looks like that spot has healed up very well.
Yes, and he can, he can still hear perfectly fine out of the other side. He responds really good, and so, we get a lot of people that'll ask us, do all of our animal ambassadors know their names, and those sorts of things. And I'd like to say that they all do. It just depends on whether they come when they're called. Just like your cats or dogs do, they all know their name. It just depends on whether they want to come and respond to you when you call them.
Oh, and Mike Dunlin wanted me to let you know that you're doing a great job narrating and introducing us to your family. Thank you so much, Sandra. We're loving meeting all these beautiful animals.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys for everything that you guys do and for everybody attending World Veg Fest. I mean, us, in sanctuaries and in the nonprofit space, nonprofits are fully funded by donors and supporters. And I know the San Francisco Veg Society is too. And we would not be successful without supporters like all of you guys. And so thank you. All these animals are getting to live out their best lives at these sanctuaries because of supporters like you guys.
And I want to encourage everybody to go to the sweetfarm.org website. That's where you can donate and help support the work being done at Sweet Farm and help Sandra and all of the work that she's doing and help provide food and shelter for these beautiful babies. Thank you, Erin. Erin just dropped the website link in the chat for everybody watching. Oh, Juno is absolutely beautiful. You can tell when you were talking about Bruno earlier, she was just looking on very lovingly. You could totally tell that she's very protective of Bruno.
Yeah, she's always looking over him and always keeping a good eye out. And she's been a good part of a rehabilitation process of a few of our goats here at Sweet Farm. And so, we always consider her a good team member when it comes to that. So, and I'm going to give you a quick switch here real quick because our long-haired llamas just got put down into the pasture and it looks like they might be giving us a dust bath, maybe. No, maybe they're just going to lay down. Sometimes they like to dust bathe right when they come out there. Did I catch you, Shika? She's like, oh no, she saw me. Yeah, so, but all of our guys here, we have different pastures around the property. And, for us here at Sweet Farm, not only do we want to be good stewards to the animal ambassadors here, but we also want to be good stewards to the land as well. So we like to do a lot of pasture rotation to allow the animals time to graze in one pasture and then let that pasture rest and then move them over to another pasture. And so luckily here we are able to do that.
It's so wonderful that you're able to have so much space to really give the land a rest and let it rejuvenate.
It's very important to make sure that they have enough space to graze in. All right, she's not going to dust bathe for us. Was there a question being asked there?
Let me see. Oh, we did have a question about the horns.
Yes.
We did see one of the goats at Herd and Flock when we visited Herd and Flock yesterday. She had been, actually no, he was a he. He had been debudded at a young age, and then his horns were coming back in. But the way they were coming back in, they're coming back in so oddly that they would have looped around and grown right back into his skull. Now that's something that wouldn't normally happen, correct? Normally you wouldn't even have to trim Juno's horns, correct?
That is correct. We have some goats here that actually have that happening as well, and that's because the debudding was not done properly. So typically, you know, when goats are debudded when they're kids, they normally do it when they're just little baby goats. And it's a chemical that they pour on top where the horns are to grow out, and it basically burns. It burns where the horns would grow. So it almost they're killing that area where the horns grow out. It's a very painful process. They don't use any sort of anesthetic or any pain relief at all. And when it's not done properly, you will see adult goats with their horns not growing in correctly. Now, if goats are just kids and that debudding process is not done and they're just allowed to grow their horns, 9 times out of 10, their horns are going to grow in correctly, like Juno's here, or like how Bruno's horns were growing in. Bruno's horns were growing in perfectly fine, straight up, or how, you know, depending on the breed of the goat will depend on how their horns are going to grow. And we get asked a lot of times where, oh, well, is it just the male goats that have horns? No, almost every single breed of goat is going to have horns. When you see a goat that doesn't have a horn, that means it's because they were debudded.
That's good information to have. It's hard to believe that people can be so cruel.
Yeah, they say that they do it because you know, goats headbutt each other and they do it as a form of play, right? Well, when you get too many goats in a place at one time, there's pecking orders that have to be worked out. And horns can puncture the goat, horns can injure a goat. I've heard of some things where, oh, well, they don't want the horns to puncture the meat, right? So there's lots of reasons why people will puncture will debud goats. You know, a lot of people right now, like the big popular thing right now is goat yoga. Well, you know, all those little baby goats have been debudded, because guess what? They don't want all these little baby goats with these little tiny horns running around debudding people or headbutting people that are doing yoga. So all those little baby goats are debudded, and then when they're too big to be useful for goat yoga, they're then sold for meat, which a lot of people don't know.
Oh, that's terrible. I think that is just, and it's interesting because you do see some of the sanctuaries do goat yoga, and those are the only ones that we would ever recommend are the ones that, like, for example, Goatlandia does have a goat yoga program, but you can see that those little guys do have their horns. But
yeah,
the goat yogas you're talking about are the ones that are done not at sanctuaries, that are just done
correct.
at goat farms.
Correct. And there are some amazing organizations out there like Goatlandia that do goat yoga correctly, right? Those goats are all rescued. They're all going to get to live out their lives there. And they're adult goats. They're not baby goats. And for the most part, you know, they're out in their normal pasture. They're not being transported to all these different places. So yeah, you know, people just need to do their research.
My husband just remarked, who knew that you couldn't do goat yoga correctly? I do think it's important to let folks know that those animals on those goat farms are being exploited. So if you do want to experience a goat yoga type situation, go to Goatlandia, go somewhere where the goats are rescued and where they're being treated properly.
Right. Yeah, I think Goatlandia is the only one I know of that's in the area.
That's the only one I know that I would trust to be ethical. That's for sure.
Yes. Yeah, me too. Me too. And Deb at
Oh,
Goatlandia, she runs an amazing operation. So
Deb is wonderful. She just does amazing work, and she's an amazing chef as well.
yeah, her food is incredible.
Yeah, shout out to Deb Blum. We love you. Oh, what a
Definitely.
beautiful baby. Oh. And your old gentleman stallion, the 37-year-old, he's in the barn eating, right?
Actually, he's done. He just got let out. So let me go walk over and introduce you to Sturgis.
Sturgis. He is such a handsome boy.
Yeah, he eats a little slower. He's normally the last one to come out in the barn. And that's because he's 37. And in the morning and at night, we have to moisten his grain. And we basically turn it into kind of like an oatmeal. And then he takes a good 45 minutes to an hour to eat. And then we give him a little bit of time to digest, and then we let him out in the morning. So this is Sturgis. Good morning, Sturgis. And so Sturgis is our grandpa on the farm. And I see you've already rolled in some hay. Hi, buddy. Hi. And so he was actually our very first rescue here at Sweet Farm. And so he came from a coastside resident that was, he was already pretty elderly. And it was during a time where California was going through a severe drought. We had a few years of drought, and then we had a really wet winter. And Sturgis was in her pasture, stuck in the mud up to his knees. He had a disease on his skin that resulted in about 80% hair loss. He had a GI tract infection and a couple of other ailments that were going on. And they were kind of at their wits' end. They didn't really know what else to do. They had the vet on their way out to euthanize him. And luckily for Sturgis, the daughter just wasn't okay with that. She picked up the phone, she called Sweet Farm, and Nate and Anna immediately rushed out there. And we weren't originally going to rescue equestrians, right? I mean, they're not technically farmed animals. However, they are in other countries. And a lot of our horses here in the United States, which a lot of people don't know of, racing horses and so forth, get sold on the market and then end up in other countries for meat and so forth. And so Anna, one of our co-founders, grew up on a horse farm and has always had a soft spot for horses. And so when they rushed over there, they met with Sturgis, they took a look at him, talked to the vet, and was like, hey, you know, if we get him to our property, what do you think? Can we nurse him back to health? And the vet's like, sure, it's worth a try. So they literally dug him out of the mud, got him to Sweet Farm, months and months of 24-hour care. They had to rub this ointment all over his back twice a day and all over his body to get that disease off of his skin to subside. And as you can see, he's now, I'd like to say, a thriving 37-year-old stallion, but well, he is a thriving stallion. He's just a grandpa now. So the average lifespan of a horse is anywhere from 29 to 30 years old, and he is blowing out the odds of any average age. And he is now 37 just a few months ago, and he is definitely living out his best life here at Sweet Farm. And so he is just doing a great job. He's kind of Grandpa Sturgis here. He's Gizmo's best friend. Paco loves him. A lot of our animal ambassadors here really gravitate towards Sturgis. Oh, buddy. Yeah, a few years ago, he did develop a tumor in his eye here on the left-hand side. And through the advisement of a specialist and through an oncologist, we did actually have that eye removed last December, and just to save his life and keep him comfortable. And he's been doing great ever since.
It's amazing how fantastic he looks for a horse his age. He really, and even for a horse of any age, he looks great.
Yeah, he really is doing wonderful. And you know, every morning after he gets done with his breakfast, even though he, eats slower and takes him longer, as soon as you open up that barn stall, he jets out, he runs down the pasture, he dust bays, he does the whole, the morning he doesn't do that is the morning that we will worry. But he still does that every single morning. He loves to come out into this big pasture. He runs around. He'll play with Gizmo. In fact, sometimes I think he keeps Gizmo in shape a little bit, chasing him around the pasture. And they cuddle together, they sleep together out in the pasture. They'll groom each other even. It's a really cute relationship to see. I think
And I remember our last visit, you could see that he and Paco were palling around quite a bit too. It's just amazing how everybody's so friendly to each other, and these interspecies relationships is just fascinating to see.
yes, we could definitely learn a lot from animals. Animals do not see species at all. They just know who they like. So we could definitely take a lesson from their playbook.
And Bonnie in the chat wanted to say thank you for introducing us to all of the beautiful animals and telling us their stories. I agree. It's just so neat to hear these stories of these rescued animals and the circumstances that they came from, and to see them living in such a beautiful area. Sweet Farm is just absolutely gorgeous. And they get to hang out all day with their animal friends and have all of this space to run and be free and do what they should naturally
Wonderful.
do.
Did we get to introduce you to Angel last time, or did we not have Angel?
Yes, how is Angel
Wonderful.
doing?
Angel is doing great. She's hanging out right over here. And I know we had talked about, so Angel is our newest cow here on the farm, for those who were not lucky enough to get to meet her. And I'll give you her background. She was rescued a few weeks ago, was brought here, and she is from a beef farm. And at this beef farm, the female cows are given 2 chances to provide a viable calf. And unfortunately, Angel here gave birth to her second stillborn calf. And at the beef farm that she was at, she would have been sold for slaughter. She would have been sent to slaughter because she couldn't provide viable offspring. Well, luckily for Angel, basically a neighbor of this beef farm had witnessed, she had basically knew her tag, this 169 tag, and had witnessed her give birth to her first calf, her first stillborn calf, because I guess it happened close to her property. Then she witnessed the same 169 female cow give birth to her second calf, stillborn calf. And it was very traumatic for this person who lived next door this beef farm, because she knew what Angel's fate was going to be, that she was going to immediately be sent to slaughter because she couldn't produce offspring. And she had saw and witnessed how upset Angel was, how she cried over her stillborn, and she immediately wanted to provide her with refuge and figure out a way to provide her with a forever home. And so she negotiated with the beef farmer and worked out a deal. And basically then once that deal was reached, she needed to find a forever home for her. So then she reached out to Sweet Farm and asked us if we would bring her here to provide her with permanent refuge. And so we were happy to do that, to bring her here. And as soon as we got her here, she was no longer just a number. And so one of our amazing long-term and dedicated volunteers was given the joy of being able to name her. So they named her Precious Angel, and we all call her Angel for short. And so soon here we'll be removing her tag, but she will get to live out her life here. And when she got here, Gizmo immediately grew attached to her and fell in love with Angel. And so now, since the last time we have all talked, Argyle now has gotten a little smitten over Angel as well. And so there's been a little bit of love affection between Gizmo and Argyle and Angel. And so now we find Angel has to put the two boys into check, and she just kind of hangs out here. And when she wants the attention, she can get it. When she doesn't want the attention, she just enjoys sleeping and hanging out in the pastures. So she definitely has taken charge over our two male steers here at the farm. It's been nice to see that interaction between her and the two boys.
I'm not surprised those boys have a crush on her. Look at how beautiful she is.
She is amazing. She is so beautiful. She is she's still getting used to human interaction. So like we've been noticing on the calls, this is actually this is the closest that we've been able to get to her on a call. She'll take treats from us. So she'll take an apple from us, but she hasn't allowed us yet to groom her or anything like that. So she's still a little weary of the grooming, but she'll get there, one step at a time. And she's really curious when she sees us grooming Gizmo and Argyle. She's right there, and she wants to know what's happening. So she's definitely curious of that process. And so soon, we'll be grooming her, and she'll realize that it's very fun to have her back groomed and those sorts of things. And so, she came from a beef farm where they didn't do that. And so she will soon learn that feels good, and that she'll soon enjoy those pleasures as well, being on a sanctuary.
All right. Sorry about that, Sandra.
No problem.
Yeah, I had a little snafu on my end. There we go. Okay. I've got apparently sound isn't working in one and video isn't working in one. So I've just had to stitch together a little quick fix there.
No
but
problem.
Angel's story is so fascinating, and I think it's exactly the thing that we love to hear as vegans is seeing somebody rescued from what definitely would have been a death sentence for her, correct? Because she was expected to be producing cows.
Yep.
For the industry. Yep. And with her producing calves, live calves, she would have been sent to slaughter, correct?
Yeah, so with her, she's given two chances to produce viable offspring, and she lost both. She gave birth to two stillborn calves and would have immediately been sent off to slaughter, because at this beef farm, they are only given two chances to produce offspring. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to produce viable offspring. So to her, she wasn't useful to them. So they would have just sent her off to slaughter. But now she'll get to live her life out here at Sweet Farm.
I'm so glad that she's been able to find a forever home with you all there, and with two young beaux buying for her affection, and with all of the animals there at Sweet Farm. It's just so wonderful to see everybody living out their lives in such a wonderful, beautiful place. And it's always so nice to talk to you, Sandra. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with us today. And I strongly encourage everybody to go to sweetfarm.org, donate, support their amazing work that they do. We really love working with you guys. We'll be checking back in with you soon to see how everybody's doing at Sweet Farm. And hopefully after this whole COVID thing is over, we can put together a group of us to come up in a van and help out one day.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. We'd love to have you guys.
Thank you so much, Sandra. And we'll definitely look forward to checking in with you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, everybody, for attending, and enjoy the rest of World Veg Fest.
Thanks so much, Sandra. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, folks, I'm going to get to our next raffle drawing. Thank you, everybody who's been donating to the raffle prizes. I really want to appreciate all of the people who donated the raffle prizes as well. We have so many amazing raffle prizes. Our next drawing coming up here is for the $25 gift certificate for Cybele's Front Room. And I know that we all love Cybele's Front Room. Krista and her family are doing so many exciting, adventurous vegan things. Every time I go, the vegan menu has expanded exponentially. It's just really amazing, all of the options there. If you haven't tried Cybele's Front Room yet, I highly recommend it. It's in the Inner Sunset on 9th Avenue. And let me see who is the lucky winner of the $25 gift certificate. There's a lot of names in the bucket. All righty, let's see. Oh, Patty, you won again. Patty Brightman, yay. Patty, you get $25 to Cybele's. And just to remind everybody, if you donate, each raffle ticket is $5. You can purchase your raffle tickets by going to paypal.me/SF Veg Society. That's paypal.me/SF Veg Society. And every $5 gets you a raffle ticket. So if you donate more, that gives you more chances to win. And we'll be doing more raffle prizes throughout the day. We have Rancho Compasión, our Rancho Compasión tour coming up at 11. So we'll just take a quick little break here. Everybody get some water, have a stretch, get yourself a snack, and we'll be right back. Thank you for joining us.
You know.